Welcome in to another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. I had a couple of weeks of pent-up introduction in me, so I had to get that out there. Today we're talking about To Be or Not To Be, episode 215, about your Kings. There's lots of stuff that's going in and going out. We're going to be talking all about that kind of stuff. We're here for you after that Buffalo loss, so get in the chat, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. You know, I love the karaoke, and I have to get it in every once in a while. I have to get my tunes in. Stretch out the voice. Boys, what's your favorite karaoke song? When you guys have a couple beers in you, and you guys want to belt one out, what do you guys go to? What's your go-to karaoke jingle?
I don't know, man. Yeah, putting me on the spot. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a big karaoke guy. My voice is not for
me doing karaoke
for anybody's ears. But I mean, I don't know. I'm a big Bob Seger fan. I've always been a big Bob Seger fan. So
I'd probably do something by The Who.
There you go.
There you go.
Eagles. We can sing Hotel California. Maybe that.
Okay.
So Say It Ain't So is my favorite. I do Say It Ain't So every time. By Weezer. It's a crowd pleaser. It's not too hard to sing. You can get everybody jumping. So I Say It Ain't So from the Weezer or from Weezer is my favorite. And our favorite team is the Kings. We haven't talked to them in a while, and I'm Rachel Randon at the helm here, and we have my buddies Russell Morgan and Joe Paterino. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good, Retool Randon. I don't have a fun moniker for my name. I should have came up with one. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Well, it's funny you say we talk about our favorite team, the Kings. It's like I love obviously chatting with my fellows here, seeing Joe and Randon. Really, what gets me on here, but it's like I have to build up so much energy to even talk about, and even I'm sure everybody listening, even watch this team play, because it's like, oh my God, man! Just one night after another. I just hope we find some excitement. The last few games have been good, and then it's like the opposite of I think I'm out, and then they pull me back in. It's like I think I'm in, and then it just pushed me back out. And it's like that's how I felt tonight. But Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Very, very busy. It's been just a lot of hockey. So I couldn't watch the Detroit game. I haven't caught up on that one. Obviously, I saw they won. Tonight I wasn't able to be in Buffalo. We had practice tonight, and with a game tomorrow, I couldn't go practice yesterday, so I didn't want to miss two in a row. So, but I'll be honest, the biggest reason I wanted to go to the game was one last chance to see Kopitar, and with him not playing anyways, I felt a little less I have no interest in going to watch this team play a hockey game in person with a bunch of Sabres fans. So I was perfectly content watching it unfold on my couch. But otherwise okay. Like I said, busy, a lot of hockey going on, but overall good. Retool Randon, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think the reason I chose this topic for the episode, To Be or Not To Be, is is this team for real or is it not? Are we moving in? Are we going all in, or are we pulling out? Are every single person who's on the trade block, the Kings are rumored to get, and that's been the way for the last 4 years, and we've never gotten anybody that's been rumored to come here. But now that the powers that be, the shadow government that is behind the LA Kings, those people who write content are also starting to be like, oh, well, maybe the Kings shouldn't push all in for the fourth time or the fifth time in a row. Maybe there is another option besides quadrupling down. And I think it lends itself to a lot of discussion. And before we get into the recent play, I think this team and the lens of this team has changed for me a little bit, in the fact that there's what we would do as GMs, as hockey royalty GMs, what we would do for the team, what our opinion of the team, and then the team is, as the organization views it, what are the moves that we would do in that lens? And I think it's kind of fun to view the teams in both aspects. And we'll get to that as I, scrub and polish my tinfoil hat for the second segment. But I really just think that it is a fun aspect to kind of view the team right now, as well as there's not as well as the team is playing or as uninspiring the team is playing. There's kind of multiple lenses that you can view the team. And I think that's kind of an interesting take for people who, especially on this podcast, like to overanalyze different segues of how the team is functioning. I think it's interesting how that team functions, or how our team functions.
Yeah, it's funny because on I think it was the last 32 Thoughts podcast, they kind of talked about the Kings a little bit, or Friedman talked about the Kings a little bit, where he mentioned that having real questions, or they're asking the Kings management is asking themselves real questions about that same should we go all in? Should we not go all in? What are we as a team? And it's funny, I'm listening to that thinking I could probably answer that for you guys right now. We just watched this game, or you watch this team play at any parts throughout the season. It doesn't look like a team that's ready to win a Stanley Cup. So that should answer your question right there. And then it's funny because he went on this little segment about how Corey Perry is this very important player. I'm like, that's where we're at right now. It's 1-year-old Corey Perry is the Kings' most important player. That should answer your question right there. So, I'm okay with making some moves, but they'd have to be very minor at this point. And if there are any moves to be made, you'd have to be thinking long term, as opposed to thinking with any kind of rental in mind.
Yeah. I mean, Randon, to your title, to be or not to be, I mean, it's very much not to be. I mean, I guess what is B? Is it make playoffs? Is it contender? I mean, in no fashion is this team close to a contender. Now, in fairness to them, they are battling some injuries. They haven't had a full lineup in I don't know how long. So that's worth noting. But even that said, and even before that, there's, it's just a dull product. So I don't know. I think that I agree with, a lot of what Russ said, and that this is in no way it should just be a team that's emptying whatever futures it has on a trade deadline asset. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, here they sit now, they are two places out of the wild card, with Seattle. I think Seattle and San Jose still are in action right now, I should say. So we'll see how those games end up. But it's hard to see, they're a team, you mentioned Russ, they win a game, they lose a game, they win a game, they beat Detroit. They're on a little bit of a run there with a couple of games. Detroit's a good team, beating the Rangers in St. Louis. I hope you're beating those teams, right? Beat a Detroit team that's having a really good season. But then you lose today fairly comfortably, if you will, to a good Buffalo team, which is finally, we can say there's a good Buffalo team. This team has been, quietly one of the best teams in the NHL, in particular the last, 2 months or so. So they're not at that level. They're not really close to that level. And I think what you saw the last couple of games is an example of that. Any team in any night can beat any team, right? That's just sports. But if you were to play these teams, as we talk about in this show all the time, the playoffs is such a different animal. When you play the same team, the scouting's different, everything's different. They wouldn't beat Detroit in a series. They'll beat them one game, but that's not they're going to get swept. They're not beating a lot of good teams in a series setting, right? That's where they're at. And to me, that's what makes a good team. Not that you can get 105 points in in 82 one-off games. That doesn't matter. And here this year, they're nowhere near that anyway. So this is a team that should really tread lightly as they move forward toward the deadline. Not opposed to ads necessarily, but like you said, Russ, these got to be really under the radar Kuzmenko-esque type of deals where you're getting, you're taking a shot. Like, you're not getting a sure thing. You're not getting a guarantee. You're taking a shot at somebody for, a mid pick or something like that. Obviously, I'm nervous that they're not going to do that, because that's not what this GM was brought in here for. This GM was brought in to, get this team to over the hump. So I don't know how he views Ken Holland, that is, where they're at now, and what he's going to look at as they go forward here.
He's got a lot to think about over the Olympic break, and I think how this team has been playing recently might change his thought on what he's going to do. And I mean, every single columnist is saying that the Kings are this or that. So who knows what they actually are, and who knows what Holland thinks about this team. Russ, lately this team's been playing some good hockey here, good hockey there. One of our topics is going to be they re-signed Taylor Ward, who's been playing well as he's been brought up. That seems more like a move for the future, not taking up a spot in the bottom six with a guy that they pick up the street. They're investing in a younger age player. But how's this team kind of molding together with how injured they've been?
Well, I mean, yeah, they've dealt with injuries, but I don't know. Even before the injuries, they were the same team, and it's still been the same team, to be honest with you. Like, even when the injuries, like, the players went out, they played the same, they looked the same on the ice, and so to say that they've been playing any different of late, I just don't see it. So I don't know. They're just badly coached. I'm just going to say that they're just so badly coached. Like, the game tonight specifically. Like, I'm watching this game play, and like, it's probably just such a small example, but you're down 3-1 with 3:47 left, and you have an offensive zone face-off, and you're not willing to pull the goalie there. That's just such a scared way of coaching. That's just, I'm here to coach not to lose by more than 2 goals. You can't be playing that way or coaching that way. You have to be taking risks when the risks are there to be taken. And even maybe some people thought that they should have challenged the disallowed goal by, like, the Corey Perry disallowed goal. I get it. I probably wouldn't have done it, but I get it. Like, so you can even throw that in there. It's just a coach that's not really willing to take the risks when are there to be taken. And that's how the team plays. It's just, they're enigmatic. They're a perfect example of how the coach is how they play. And that was just that right there. And not to mention, like, the way, like, Drew Doughty's been playing when he's been getting all the minutes on the defensive as the top defenseman. You go to 4 forwards where you have the Adrian Kempe playing the defensive spot, because you don't have that other left shot defenseman play there. And the guy on the other side is Drew Doughty, not Brant Clark, who's clearly your best offensive defenseman. It's Drew Doughty. And then what happens when you do end up pulling the goalie with 125 left, with the Drew Doughty coming down the wing? He shoots a shot with nobody in the offensive zone. I don't know what he's doing. You can go back and watch the little dots on NHL.com, the little score dots that they show. There's nobody there. You might as well just pass it to the Buffalo Sabres and say, here, Alex Tuck, here's your hat trick. Because that's pretty much what happened. It was a POP right to the Sabres. It goes right back in your net. It's just such a scared way of playing. And it's boring hockey. They play the game not to win or not to lose, and then they end up losing most of the time.
I think you had it right the first time. They play the game not to win. They're trying to keep the game close and low scoring, and however the result ends up, it ends up. But as long as they do that, then that's what it is. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, like, as much as we've ragged on, Blake prior and Holland current to what they've done to the blue line, which is very bad. Like, you can still, this team, there's different ways to play the game of hockey, and what Jim Hiller's doing is like, if you watch the two teams play today, just drastically different stylistically. And I mean, there's a lot of teams that are drastically different than LA, but if you saw, like, and I can picture probably a lot of fans sometimes or whoever, like, there was a lot of extra passes, you could say, that the Sabres would make, and some of them got deflected and picked off, and the Kings did a good job getting a stick in a lane. But the point is, they are always looking to feed the slot. They're always looking to go cross seam. And if a pass gets picked off, it gets picked off. So be it. They'll try to regroup and go back and get it. But like the Kings are much different, where they're just looking to shoot from anywhere. Like I thought Alex Lyon, I'll be honest, guys, I thought he had a pretty easy game today. And it was funny, Marty Biron, so obviously out here, I get the Sabres broadcast locally. So Marty Biron does the intermission, and he said after the second period, he's like, yeah, the Kings have a lot of shots, but he's like, if I'm Alex Lyon, sure, hit me in the pads, hit me in the chest. He's like, this seems like a pretty easy game. And obviously Biron was a goalie. He's like, this has been a pretty easy game for a goaltender. Obviously, we'll see what the third period looks like, but through two periods, it's just a lot of hope shots. You know, they had a couple looks. Laferriere had a nice little one-time play. Like it's not to say they had nothing, but by and large, pretty easy game for Alex Lyon. The Kings did have a bit of a push in the third. But going back to coaching, like stylistically, you have a team like Buffalo and a lot of teams, frankly, but a team like Buffalo in this game tonight, who's trying actively to get bodies to the slot and feed slot passes, feed seam passes. That's everything. You know, if they get a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, they're almost always looking for the cross seam to get the goalie moving, because they know like a random shot from the outside, the chances of that going in is so slim. But if you can connect on a seam pass, it's that much more dangerous. And the Kings don't operate like that. You know, the Kings operate, they shoot from, as we've talked about, and everybody knows watching it, they shoot from the perimeter and they just try to whack at it at the top of the crease. That's a strategy. And that's a strategy that the Kings employ. Like, I remember having a conversation last year on Twitter when I was posting like a heat map or something, that the Kings just refused to go to the middle. And someone was like, wow, it's not as if they're not doing it on purpose. It's like, no, they're very much doing this on purpose. This is the style. They want to get shots from anywhere and everywhere, like if it's on the perimeter, and hope for tips and rebounds and screens. Like that's the style. And so then when you're chasing a game and then you have to try to force plays to the slot a little bit more, that's a lot harder. So I don't know. We've talked about this a million times and it's all the same, but I thought it was really on display tonight, where it looked like the Kings were kind of having a good game because they threw a lot of pucks at the net. They had 35, whatever it was, shots on goal, something like that. So it's like, oh, wow, they didn't play bad. I don't know. I thought it was kind of easy. And for me, I thought Buffalo broke out of the zone pretty easily a lot of the times. I didn't think the Kings had a ton on, they did a great job on the forecheck, at least through two periods. Again, I know they had a bit of a push there in the third, but I agree, Russ. Coaching is a big problem. Despite what the last two GMs have done to the blue line, it doesn't need to be style wise this bad. That's not to say that they'd be in a much better place per se, just because the personnel is what it is. But this is not good, and that's what was so worrisome about their adamance on keeping Hiller. Now, whether that was Robitaille or whether that was Holland or whatever, like that was a bit of a signal to say, like, as much as we want to see something change here stylistically, if Jim Hiller's the coach, then it's not a shock that you see Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin brought in the offseason, right? And for as good as they've been, guys like Corey Perry and Joel Armia, like they play certain styles of games, and they've been very good, the latter two, but it's tough. It's tough times right now.
Just to your point real quick, Joe.
Yes.
Shot attempts 5-on-5 tonight, 61-45 in favor of the Kings. I'm looking at natural stat trick. Mm-hmm. High danger chances, 14-8 in favor of Buffalo.
Yeah.
So 8 of those 61 shot attempts were high danger chances.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, with 4 of those in the third period, I think half of those 8 came in the third.
No. So 20 shot attempts in the third period, 2 were high danger chances.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Like, again, I think it was smoke and mirrors in terms of, because I saw a lot of, Kings have played well, Kings didn't play. And it's not to say they played bad, right? It's not like Buffalo. It could have been the other way. It could have been Buffalo with the shot attempts and the quality. Like at least LA, was able to get something from a quantity standpoint. But I don't think it was as good a game as some people thought it was.
I look at what's going on with the Kings, and we really don't try to beat a dead horse when we're on here. statements have been made clear about the defense and what's going on. It's just frustrating because you look at the teams that we want to play like at Hockey Royalty and how they're built and the signings that they have and the players they're going after. It's the makeup of this team is not that. And it would take a big overhaul to make our team play like a team that we admire in their philosophy. But even within that context, there are signings that could have been made this offseason that didn't put ourselves further into the hole of playing like a defensive pylon and just playing like a quicksand and not trying to move the puck. And I think we love the signings of Armia and Perry.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't like when the national media is like, oh, yeah, Perry's the best player on the Kings. He shouldn't be. He was brought here to be a fourth-line player.
Yeah.
Oh, Armia is making the Finland national roster because he's playing so well this season. Well, great for Armia, but he shouldn't be because he shouldn't be one of the best players. He shouldn't be highlighted as one of the best players on the team. He shouldn't be playing 2C minutes. And so I'm looking right now as everybody's talking, and I'm normally at the bottom. If you're watching normally on YouTube, I have the stats tickering across the bottom. It's embarrassing. I'm putting the stats together right now. I'm about to throw them on there if you're watching live. It's embarrassing the assist. Everybody says that Byfield is having a horrible season. Well, he's second on the team in assist. Second. And it's like, okay, well, like then that just tells you how bad the rest of the team is playing and how Darcy Kemper is probably the MVP of the Kings right now because it's absolutely crazy how we view this team. And then you look at like the PDO cast and the national media and everything like that. Like the Kings are unwatchable compared to other teams. So it's like, it's how do we switch this up? How does this team change to the future? Is there to be or not to be a team this year? Or are we going to the future or are we playing here? Those are all questions that everybody has, and it's a question that I have constantly with this team. Cause how do I view this? It's also how I look at how I bet and how I bet with DraftKings is the futures or today. And DraftKings is your number one betting profile. Every yard, every sack, every interception, every touchdown with Pick 6, DraftKings' newest game. Every snap you can turn into big-time payouts. This isn't just watching the game anymore. This is playing to win. And here's how it works. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats. You can pick better on your picks, bigger the payout, and that is that simple. And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in Pick 6 credits with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. You know the game. Now make it pay. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN. Play just $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. Make the call. Ride the upside in the partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit cgb.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and age. Eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus award not withdrawable. Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. You know where to go. The crown is yours. Boys, before we get back into the Kings, we're going a little coast to coast. Talking about the teams across the league. It's almost Olympic time, so we could get into a little bit of that. And as you know, lately we're talking about, would you like to play a game? We're going to be playing a game with the boys here. If you didn't see last week's, we did best players 25 and younger. I'll be throwing some different content out here. But before we get into the game, we might not be excited about Kings hockey, but I'm sure we're definitely excited about Olympic hockey. The women play on the 5th. Men play on the 12th of February. It looks like the arena might get done. Your Italians, Joe, they work on their own time. The arena is going to get finished at puck drop, it seems like. So we're going to figure it out there. What are you guys feeling about Olympic hockey and like the buzz that's coming around about, this upcoming season?
Yeah, Olympic hockey is what's going to save me this hockey season. It's like the only thing I have really to look forward to. And I'm sure Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala probably feel the same way. Yeah, I'm pumped, man. I'm very much looking forward to watching and rooting for players like Tage Thompson and Jack Eichel and Austin Matthews. So I mean, in general, it's just going to be fun hockey to watch overall, the women's and the men's tournament. So yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun, and just to see, some of the, I say different teams, but like you mentioned, Kevin Fiala with Switzerland. I'm interested to see how they play. What type of battle Germany puts up. Obviously, the Italians are going to have a team there, Russ. I'm excited about that. Just to see how they compete.
Gabe Velarde snub on that roster.
That'll be fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Jack Hughes got hurt today, so kind of hold my breath as an American fan on that. Boy, that kid just can't stay healthy either. Man, oh man, that sucks.
Speaking of injuries, before you get going,
yeah.
Joe, Seth Jones out for the tournament.
Yep.
They brought in Lacombe. I don't know how you pronounce it. What do you guys think about that ad? Maybe there was a lot of people saying that Lane Hudson should have been brought in. What do you think about Jackson being the ad instead of maybe Lane?
I like it. I obviously watched Jackson Lacombe on the Ducks, so great player. Probably one of the best young defensemen in the NHL, to be honest with you. I mean, for his size, and now the Ducks are kind of starting to play a little bit better. It seems like he's getting a little bit more notoriety. So yeah. I'm not sure if he'll be getting a ton of minutes on this U.S. team. But yeah, I thought it was a good ad for the Americans.
I think he'd be a little bit more of a household name if he wasn't playing in Anaheim, because that kid's good. I'm here for the Hudson people too. I got no issues if especially if Canadians fans want to complain that Hudson should be there. I get it. I'm not going to argue it really, because the kid's great. But I've got no problems with Jackson Lacombe. Like this is kind of the good problem that the United States has, is they're going to inevitably leave some pretty talented players off the roster, and Hudson, in this case, is one of them. They got a real case. If they want to get noisy, they should make Cole Caulfield should be on this team. But no, I'm excited about Jackson Lacombe. I think he's a really good player. Like Russ said, I don't know where he's going to fit role wise and how many minutes he gets, but I think he's a really good player.
He's one of those guys that maybe in one of those games against Latvia or some smaller team that he'll get a nod and maybe make a name for himself, and then he might be able to play in the qualifying round as a third pair. Obviously you're going to have your Quinn Hughes and your Werenskis and those types of players, but maybe he can make a name for himself and be on that third pair there. Is there one player for the U.S. team that you don't normally get to watch that you're most excited to watch?
That's a good question. I would say I don't watch as much like Clayton Keller. I just don't watch a ton as much Utah as I probably should, if I'm being honest. So he's one, and I'm interested to see again where he fits on the roster. But he's one that like I said, I should watch Utah more than I do.
Yeah, for me, it's easy. It's the guy I already mentioned, Tage Thompson. I know Joe probably watches him quite a bit up there in Rochester. So
yeah,
don't get to see a lot of Sabres games. Try to catch as much as I can, but they're earlier. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to watching Tage Thompson play, especially with how he's been playing this year.
I think a very underrated player that I don't really get to see a lot of is Dylan Larkin. And I being on the East Coast and not really kind of paying attention to that, I think he's kind of a very underrated player in the NHL, and he brings a lot. He's kind of the Swiss Army knife to the U.S. team. Like, he can play with pace, he can score goals, he can pass, he can play defense, he can play PK. So I'm excited, and I think Dylan Larkin doesn't really get enough pub in the national media. So that's kind of one player that I think there. And I think people also, if we're going to switch the question of which LA Kings player are you most interested in playing with another team, to me would be Adrian Kempe. I think Adrian Kempe's lost his love for hockey this year. And I think him playing with his national team, you're going to really see the type of player. Everybody's throwing up these stats cards that Adrian Kempe isn't good and this contract is horrible. And that might be true in a couple years or 4 or 5 years, and that's fine. And that's a conversation we can have in the offseason. But he's still a very good hockey player. And I think we're all going to see that come the Olympics with Team Sweden.
I really hope, Kempe has a run here with Sweden. On paper, that should be fine. I know they've got some injuries though that they're dealing with in Sweden, so that's tough. Leo Carlson's going to miss the tournament. And there's at least one or two others that I'm. Willie Nylander, is he going to miss the tournament?
Not sure.
I think he'll be good.
There was somebody else. I know there's somebody else I'm forgetting, but yeah, I honestly I want to see Fiala because I have a feeling that he's going to just play free, and there's some talent on that Swiss team, so that could be a fun little. That could be fun.
Yeah, you get him with Yossi on the ice. That should be fun to watch. I mean, they always perform at the World Championships. I know it's not the Olympics and the best on best, but still, like I think I mentioned this. Yeah, I think Switzerland is going to be a sneaky team to watch. I mean, there's a couple of sneaky countries that they'll put together. Yeah, so that'll be fun.
Well, it's time to get into our little game here. So it's time to play a game. I'm going to pull up here if you're watching live to our little thing. Today is players 30 and older, but it's their career. So we're not talking about just this season. It's how their career is stacked up so far. But they have to be over 30 in this season. So if they're over 30 this season, but it's how they fare in their entire career. And the first one right here is going to be the all-time American points leader in Patrick Kane.
Wow.
First of all, congrats. That's awesome. Yeah, he passed it, by the way, with an assist on a Ben Sherratt goal, no less. Go figure. Who he just signed
off an extension.
Yeah, an albatross of an extension. Was Ken Holland doing that one too? Was he still in Detroit for a second? He's got to be number one. No?
I don't know. I think he's got to be. Like, how many other active players are better than Patrick Kane?
For the career.
That are 30 and older? Yeah, I mean, there's not many. So it's tough to take away the one right now, but I think you got to, right?
If you're going to do it with the guy that just set the record for points by an American.
You think he's going to – okay, but Joe, you think he's going to have Kopitar on here?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's what Randon snuck.
I'm a little too American-centric here. Okay, I was a little too American-centric. Okay, fair enough for us.
Yeah, you think he's going to have Crosby on here
too? He tricked us because he went like the Olympics, so he had us talking Olympics, so I was thinking USA. Today, Kane breaks the record. He did that on purpose. So, okay. So scale it back.
I already know his game. This is
bring it back.
I'm going to do two. I say two.
Okay.
2? All right, we'll put 2 in there.
Yeah, you're not fooling us this time there.
You almost fooled me, but thankfully I had rough.
Getting used to the game here. Well, then I'm going to bring it back to our hearts. If we're going to go to the American hearts, we're going to go to the LA King hearts. Drew Doughty.
Ooh.
This is a tough one.
Yeah, because I was going to – he's
we're thinking career here, guys.
Yeah, when you look – number 3. When you look at everything this guy's done – in his career, both as an NHLer, but on the world stage with the Olympics and Four Nations,
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, he's won freaking everything, and he's been awesome. And yes, if the fact that he's struggling as he's getting into his late 30s, okay, not most do. I mean. Is 3 too high?
No, I'm cool with 3, and I appreciate Jacob seeing what I'm trying to do here. It's if you're looking at overall career, we'll just not think about the here and now.
By the way, him and Anderson had a shift to start the third period today. Doughty fell over behind the net. Anderson puked it. I mean, it was like an abomination.
I know exactly what you're talking about there, Joe.
I was like, what just happened on this
Drew
shift?
broke his stick or Mikey broke his stick, and it was just, oh, man.
And you guys in the chat, feel free to play along with us, throw your opinions there. Next player, Brad Marchand.
Wow. I mean, I feel like he's probably pretty fine at 4, but I guess we'll say 5.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 5.
Let's go 5 just in case.
Yeah, I say 5.
Because there's a couple Penguins out there that would both be worthy. There's 3 Penguins that could probably both be worthy of 1.
Yeah,
I don't know if I spelled that correctly off the rip, but all right. Next player is a Penguin. Sid the Kid Crosby.
1.
Yeah, it's gotta be 1.
There we go.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
That one's an easy one.
I didn't mean to make it that easy for the last pick here, but Temi Panarin.
Ooh, okay.
I think I probably would go Marchand 4 and Panarin, but otherwise I think the Pana. You're gonna have to spell that right if the Kings are going to be getting him, Brandon.
Well, that's the segue because I've been polishing my tinfoil hat for the next segment, so that's why I had to throw him in here.
And is that just to be clear? That is Patrick Kane, right? That wasn't Evander Kane. Speaking,
that's Patrick Kane. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing that I would do, like I said, is switch Panarin and Marchand for this list.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's actually like the list. If we did that switch, I think with the sneaky, I don't know what it's called. What is it? Blind test is what this is called. I think we did pretty good. Yeah, I think
back-to-back weeks, you guys have been pretty solid.
Yeah, Panarin, I mean, that's not a slight. Obviously, Panarin's legit. Like that dude's been a heck of a player. He's put a career together. But Marchand, with what he's won, and Panarin hasn't had the opportunity to play in some of the world events, obviously, over the last bunch of years. But and he won't again. So there's not much he can do about that part. But Marchand is pretty well decorated. So yeah, I'd make that switch. But otherwise, good stuff.
Yep.
All right. Quality there, guys. I like it.
I like that there was no goalies on that list. Thank you, Randon.
You're very welcome. Because they would have been 6 or 7 in the top 5 list for Joe. That was Coast to Coast here. We're going to be getting into the next part. And I think I'm wearing the wrong hat, ladies and gentlemen. So let me feather this up here a little bit. Because it's time for a little tinfoil action. Let me bring it in here with our banner, little tinfoil banner. Tinfoil segment. All right. Getting into it here. We're talking about a couple trades. Because you know what it is? I mean, we're gonna be thinking about the Olympics, but there's gonna be trades. There's gonna be thoughts in people's minds, and Twitter is abound with different possibilities, and every single guy out there is wanting to bring everybody to the Kings. The number one is the number 4 on your guys' list for top players all time over 30. And Temi Panarin has been rumored to the Kings. And lately he's been rumored to wanting an extension close to 3 or 4 years, upwards of 11 to 12 million, depending on who you talk to. So it's going to be a little sign and trade. It looks like is what his agent is looking for. Rangers seem to be willing to facilitate the no trade clause. Those are all rumors out there, but all rumors point to LA. How do you guys feel about the player and kind of what this would mean for the Kings?
This one's so tough because it's funny because Artemi Panarin is a player the Kings like desperately need. Like he would easily be their best forward, probably be their best player overall. I mean, he would immediately help the scoring. I feel like, even with the Kings kind of system, that the way they play. I understand the age part of it. I understand the contract part of it. I think it's all something that he deserves for the player he is. I just don't feel that the Kings are in a position to give up assets for a player like Panarin right now. He's what, 32 years old? 34.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, even older. Yeah, I just, man, it's like, it's funny because if you had asked me like at this point last year when the Kings were playing well, all the analytics looked great. They were kind of
Team Dumoulin.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been like a no-brainer, right? Like instead of Kuzmenko, you try to make something work. You bring in an Artemi Panarin instead. I'm all for it, even with the extension, because you could see like, okay, maybe you can kind of get something going here for the next 3 or 4 years. But now it's like, I just don't see it. And like I said, like I think it's a player that they desperately need. I mean, I could be wrong. Like they could make this happen, and he could be their best player and go on like a Marian Gaborik type run. That's just the type of player he is. I just don't see the Kings being in that position where they need to be spending the amount of assets it's going to require to get a player like Panarin.
Not only that, but I am incredibly skeptical about Panarin actually waiving to come to Los Angeles. One, the team is not in a playoff spot. Okay, so obviously it depends on what his goals are here. If he's looking for a cup, if he's looking to win, or if he's looking for a great place to live and enjoy the nice weather. So, because there could be very different things there. But like, why is he waiving to come to Los Angeles? A team who, like a week ago or a few days back, like the Rangers had more wins than LA, not that long ago. So these teams are a lot closer than people would probably think. So, A, why is he waiving? Because for that reason. Why would he waive to come to a team that strangles offense and any fun? And he looks like the most fun player. And like Vladislav Gavrikov left Los Angeles to go to the Rangers. Now, this is me totally out of the know and uneducated on, the relationship between Gavrikov and Panarin, but Gavrikov did a interview in Russia about his time in Los Angeles and leaving, and he was respectful, but like you could tell, like he was ready to not be in Los Angeles anymore. So whatever the reason was, whether it was team reasons or just lifestyle reasons, imagine he's had conversations with Panarin about that, his time in LA. So I see way more reasons as to why Panarin would not waive to come to LA than him willing to. So given the fact that everything Russ talked about with, what assets do the Kings have to pull this off? Plus all those things, I'm pretty skeptical that this is a real rumor.
I mentioned in the beginning, there's to be or not to be is a lot of my opinions right now are floating in two different realities. The reality of where the Kings are at and what I would do if I were Ken Holland with what he's been brought in here to do, which is win a cup. And then what I would do as retool Randon and do that. Retool Randon would not bring Panarin in here because I don't believe this team can win a cup as it is. If I'm Ken Holland, this is the exact player I'm bringing in. This is the exact player I'm dumping every asset I possibly can in to bring in. He's a point per game player for every year but 2 years of his career, and those were the first 2 years of his career. Bad teams, good team. Played in Columbus when they were bad. He's played in the Rangers when they were good and bad, and he's still a point per game player. He's a right shot, which the team needs. We have a lot of left shots. Yeah. He can revolutionize the power play and change that up. California has all different types of nationalities. So him being Russian, it shouldn't be hard for him to find pockets of LA that he feels comfortable in. You do have Kuzmenko, who is already Russian, that is here, who has re-signed twice. Yeah, Gavrikov left, but Kuzmenko signed or got traded here and signed once. Sorry. So, I think if you're Ken Holland, put your manhood on the table and go out and get the best player that's available to trade.
So what's the package then, you think, Brandon?
Because that's what you're bringing him here to do.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the Rangers want. Because the Rangers came out with their edict. Hey, we're not rebuilding, we're retooling. So what does a retool mean for them?
Retool Rangers.
Yeah. Do they want Greentree, who is probably 1 year away of making an AHL and then probably straight to the NHL after that, or he plays a half season in the AHL? So do you want a Greentree in a one? Do you want a player that can play right now? So is it Laferriere in a one? Is it Turcotte and a high goalie prospect in a one? Like, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat here. I think the first round pick is probably the most important thing for the Rangers, and then either a high prospect or a high player. And then is the money going to be there? 3 to 4 years, if you're Ken Holland, this is saying, hey, the signings that I made in the offseason are the right signings. We've just been injured all year. We're going to turn this thing around, and Panarin can be the guy that can do that. So you're signing that. And that's all under the lens of this team pushing all their chips in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Joe Panarin's got to feel the same way.
Right.
Like, hey, Kopitar's retiring, all this stuff is going on. This might be a 1-year deal. Or, yeah, trade me there, but I don't want to re-sign there. I want to be a free agent. And then obviously the package would look different at that point.
That's a good point too, Brandon. You mentioned Kopitar retiring. Like, if you're Panarin, who am I playing with? Who's my center? It isn't Kopitar. I guess it's Byfield, or is it Alex Laferriere? Like, who's my centerman? Because that matters, and Byfield hasn't exactly taken off yet. So that's probably a factor.
Yeah, I think you're starting with Laferriere for Panarin. I think that would be the player they'd look for. Because they could probably ask for, I don't think they'd ask for Turcotte.
No, I don't think Turcotte moves the needle at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think you're looking at Laferriere and a draft pick. And that's, to be honest, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't. I'd be rather, I'm not saying like Laferriere is a better player, even going to grow into a better player. And that player as good as Panarin, maybe even half as good. But that's just not a young player that should be dealing away.
If I knew this team was a lot closer, I would do that.
Yeah,
I would do that. But
if I thought the team was close, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So, and I don't see. Then again, they've gone out over the years at different GMs, so worth keeping in mind. But they've gone out and acquired guys like Fiala and Kuzmenko, which really feel like square pegs and round holes on this team sometimes. And Panarin would kind of feel like that in a way. So that's also part of it, is like, where's the fit there? Like, I don't know. So if the deal is, so let's go under the assumption that Holland is actively trying to get Panarin, and let's go into the assumption that they're going to be able to work on an agreement. Panarin wants to come and sign a 3-year deal. Okay. If the deal is first and Laferriere, Russell's out, Brandon.
Well, I wouldn't do the trade. I think it's a fair trade. And and I'm looking at it from, the future looks murky because Kopitar, Byfield, I believe, is a non-factor on this team. So we have no centerpiece next year. So next year would be rough. We would have a lot of questions going into the offseason. But at this point, if you're telling me that, hey, I'm going in and we're not retooling. Okay, now I'm working under the lens that this team is not retooling. We're not saying we're going for it. Hey, the Pacific is murky. We got a couple games in hand. We're only a couple points behind. We can really make a push. And you're feeding me that as Ken Holland. Then in a heartbeat, Laferriere in a first for a guy that's a point per game player. Guaranteed. Yeah. I wouldn't even blink an eye, because I think that is a very cheap price for a guy that is Panarin's skill set for this season. If I'm not looking past 2025, 26, I'm saying, hey, who's going to make the most impact on this team for this season, and can we win multiple series? Panarin's that guy. No question.
Bring me back to that. By the way, that short you mentioned, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Bring me back to that. Remind me of that, because I was thinking about something about that earlier this week. I was like, oh boy, that's scary to think about. So bring me back to that. But staying on this topic with Panarin, again, if I'm sitting in Ken Holland's shoes, I can totally see why you're going to go big game hunting here, because you're here. That's why you're here. That's why Ken Holland was brought in, to get this team to the next level. And to Randon's point, he mentioned all the injuries. I could easily see the Kings sitting there saying, let's stay afloat while Kopitar and these guys come back. We get our full roster back, because it's been guys in and out of the lineup for a while. We get our full roster back. Then we add a Panarin-esque player to it. We're cooking with gas, right? I can see that's their thought process. Because
I don't think Holland's looking for 2027.
No,
Holland got brought in here to win hockey this year.
I agree. That's so, and I appreciate you saying like there's two ways to look at this. You can look at this from how we would do it, which I think we all would. This isn't the great.
I
player,
would give a first NCC for anybody in the National Hockey League. That's what I would do.
I would. Oh yeah, I don't need anything in coming back.
Yeah,
you get a 4th round pick in return.
Done.
Isn't that what Isn't that what Edmonton did to San Jose? They did something like that.
Yeah, something. I would do that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel so much glee inside, Joe. For getting rid of Cody CC. Go back to your point.
Okay, I did get excited for a second. Yeah, but like that. I guess the other part of the decision is like, because if you are Ken Holland, I'm sure, and this is where it gets tricky, because I'm sure that he probably is going to try to make this trade without trading Laferriere, because he's been a really good player for the Kings this year. He's an important piece for them. So first Green Tree and Carter that's George? The thing. Yeah, I think
I
think he would prefer it. He being Holland, I would assume it to be a futures deal, because you want to add to the roster. Like, and I understand Panarin is an upgrade to Laferriere, but then you're still searching for you might need another winger at some point, right? So I think you're shifting it to a futures thing. And are you trading a first in Green Tree or a first in one of the goalies? Is it? So let's just, for the hell of it, say a first in Carter George for Panarin the rest of this year plus 3 more years. Even if I don't like the direction of the Kings, I can get there, because it gives the Kings a legitimate first line talent player.
If they can do it without any roster players involved, then sure.
It's hard, because we're trying to look at this through Ken Holland's lens, but it's so hard because we can't see past the blue line. And
you're talking about the oldest team we're talking about the oldest team in the league already.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But that Russian vodka does wonders for your joints.
That is true.
I don't know. I'll say this. Like I said before, I just am skeptical of this whole rumor, frankly. I mean, I guess there's multiple people saying, so I guess there's probably some smoke there, but I really I don't get the fit.
Yeah. I don't get the fit for either the player or
either. Right, correct. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Like, he needs to go to Dallas. Just go to Dallas.
Sure.
Go to Dallas or Colorado, a team that's Carolina, and try to win.
I'll say this though, like San Jose, where I've seen San Jose's name linked. Boy, I tell you, a team like any team that's going, because here's the problem for LA, they're going kind of like this, right? But if you're Anaheim or San Jose and you're going like this, Seattle is kind of like, I don't know what they're doing, but Panarin would inject so much into those, like what he could bring to those 3 teams, I think makes them all more quote unquote real than if he comes to Los Angeles. I don't think he had, do you see what I'm saying there? I think he means more to like those other teams, if they were able to do that. But yeah,
I think it's going to come down to what real offers does New York get? What is Panarin willing to accept? And is there futures or non-futures? Because what if the best team that has the fit for this year is not willing to offer an extension? Does Panarin want to go try to get a cup and then he'll deal with it in free agency? Or, does he want to have that? And are the Rangers like, okay, well, we're not going to get as much in return because you're not signing a sign-in trade, but we're going to do what's right by you and let you go to a place that you really enjoy because that's the only team that you're willing to waive the no trade clause with. So ultimately, I think it all depends on Panarin and then a little bit on what the return is going to be. But, with what Ken Holland and the Kings have been feeding us, I think he's the exact type of player that you go out and put all your marbles and chips on the table for. So we'll see how this boils down, and I think you'll hear a lot of chatter about it, and then you won't hear much because they've already taken him out of the roster. So he won't. He sat last game, and I think he'll probably sit until the Olympic break, through the Olympic break, and then you have a couple weeks or a week before the trade deadline. So we'll see how that kind of goes. The next player is also we're going to be watching a lot of. So us Kings fans will be able to see a lot of him. If you're watching the United States hockey, is Vincent Trocheck, is one of the Rangers. The Rangers said they're trading a lot of their players. Is a guy that has been talked about a lot. He is a centerman, which the Kings need. He's about a 50 to 70 point player, depending on the season. Kills penalties, good in the faceoff dot. Will just really shore up the center of the ice for the Kings. Not super as far as on the age category. What is your guys' views on Vincent Trocheck, and why would he be a fit for LA?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the fit goes, he's like exactly what this team needs, right? I mean, we talk about a lot of people are questioning whether Byfield should even be a centerman because he can't win draws, and which I get a lot of it is warranted. I'm not overly concerned about it, but even then, there are situations, especially we've seen in the last few games, when it's late in the game, they're trying to hold a lead and a defensive zone faceoff happens. It's just really the Kings aren't winning those draws. And a lot of it has to do with, obviously, Deneau's not here anymore. Kopitar's hurt. But next year, it's going to be the same thing. So you get a player like Trocheck. He can win faceoffs. He's a centerman. He's a right-shot centerman. The Kings haven't really had a good right-shot centerman in quite some time now. So, yeah, he fits a lot of boxes. He's got that veteran presence. And he's not overly expensive. I think his cap hit is like 5.5, 5.7 something.
Yeah,
like
5.625.
It's not crazy. So, not to mention I think I mentioned the playoff
3 more years. Too.
How many more years?
3 more years.
Yeah, 3 more years.
You got term on it.
For that kind of
5.625
player is not. It's nothing really in this day and age. So it's tough because we talk about like where we think the Kings are. Do we like just getting a player like Trocheck make them a Stanley Cup contender? No, not at all. But like I can see just all the kind of holes he would fill, and maybe you kind of help fix some other leaks in the boat in the near future here if he does stick around with a couple more years left on his contract. I like Trocheck. I've always liked the player. So.
Yeah, I'm a Trocheck guy. As much as I really don't agree with him being on the U.S. Olympic team, I really do like the player from an NHL standpoint. This fit, like Russ said, makes a lot more sense with the Kings. They're playing 2 wingers at center right now. So clearly they're in need of a center. I understand even if Turcotte and Kopitar come back healthy, they're going to eventually need a center. They're going to need a center. Turcotte can play 4C and Trocheck can play 3C. That's fine. So I can definitely see the fit here. I don't have a huge issue with him having 3 more years. Just because I think at that number for a third center, I don't think that's, as the cap goes up, I don't think that's terrible. And it buys you it gives you a little bit of safety net. It buys you a little bit there. And I think, especially if they can find a way, like if they were to find a way to pair Trocheck with a winger at the deadline, now I'm not talking like somebody of Panarin's caliber at that point, but if you can get a Trocheck plus a buy low type of winger like they did with Kuzmenko, then you might be able to have a bit more of a competitive roster come for the stretch run. I say come playoff time, but that's not a guarantee right now. So for the stretch run to get into playoffs, I can see that, making a lot of sense. I guess retool Randon, I'll throw it to you again, like I did before. What are we looking at from a cost here? You got a 32-year-old center, not a huge point producer, but a very, very valuable and reliable NHL, as Ken Holland would say, pro center, kills penalties, wins faceoffs, reasonable contract.
Would Hellenius and a 1 get this done?
I honestly
Fringe roster player in a first?
Probably do it with just draft picks, to be honest with you. I feel like. But no, I think Hellenius and a 1 would be able to get it done. I think that's actually a pretty decent trade package. You get a good young center, high first round, or not high, but first round draft pick.
Mid first round draft pick.
I think so. So if from a term, I think this trade, just like last week when we were talking about Pedersen, it's a trade that works in both buckets. For a team that's trying to compete, it helps you shore up the center ice, especially with Byfield not really coming into his own this year. So you would have essentially Kopitar, Trocheck, Byfield, Turcotte down the line for this season. Trocheck is 32. He'll be on the team next year, and he'll be the veteran presence with a young centerman group. So you'll have Byfield, Trocheck, Turcotte, Hellenius next year if they don't bring anybody in. And you can also, if the team, pitfalls next year, you can also try to recruit that first round pick for the 2027 draft or do that because Trocheck's only 32. So you can still get a young enough player and a prospect if the Kings decide to retool if it doesn't work out after the season. So I think he's the type of player that can fill both boats. He can help you win this season, win some key draws down the line, push all the talent downwards, and then also be a team player for next season. If the Kings falter, then he could be a big trade piece. He would be the number one trade piece you'd be traded away come 2027. So I think he kind of fills all boats. Hellenius, as much as a lot of people like him because of his size and the way he throws his body around, he's a 3 or 4C at his peak of his career. So, it's not a huge loss. He can be a roster player. I would say similar to Lizotte if he pans out, where every team needs a 4C that can win faceoff draws and play solid defensively. And Hellenius has shown he can do that so far in his career. He's not the level of Blake Lizotte as far as consistency or reliability because he did it for multiple seasons. But I think it's a type of guy that you can sell to me, and I think to the fan base, that he fits both boats, that he's a win now piece and he's a future piece, and he could possibly be a trade away piece if we decide to switch the gears and go to a retool. So I like the versatility of the player, and I think Hellenius in a 1 or you go higher prospect and maybe Carter George in a 3 or something like that would get it done, and I'd be okay with that trade.
This fan base would lose it if they traded Carter George for Vincent Trocheck.
I wouldn't.
I would, but
yeah, I think you could do it with like I think a first and Hellenius. I think we're getting somewhere. I mean, Deneau was traded for a second round pick. He's obviously not the type of player, but he had 1 year left on his deal. Similar cap hit. So you're looking for a little bit more. That's why I think maybe you might be able to do it for a first and a third. Maybe I'm shortchanging him a little bit. Probably quite a bit, actually.
Hampton, Slavkinski in a second?
First, third, and Slavkinski maybe. I just don't know if the Rangers want a goalie.
Yeah. They're going to need to because the Kings don't have much else to offer other than Green Tree. And I don't know. There's I don't. This
like
the last
first, third, and Hellenius, is that too much?
I don't think it's too much. I'm not. I think Hellenius. I think he's he's probably a 4C, career wise. So I'm not going to lose sleep over that. And he's not.
But he's a young, cheap option.
Sure. But like if we're talking about getting Trocheck, he's now no longer has a roster spot because it's Kopitar, Byfield, Trocheck, Turcotte is I would think, anyway, assuming health, of course. That would be my 4 centers.
Yeah.
So Hellenius is out of a gig in that scenario. I don't know.
And we get Trocheck and Panarin.
So that would be, that would be kind of fun. That would be kind of fun. They could pull that off.
I don't know if that gets it done, SP. Vinny plus Panarin for a first, Angus Booth, Laffy, and Turcotte. That doesn't get it done.
I don't know.
No.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to to Trocheck though. I think he's
Hey, so since the hat is on, what do you think? What do you think that
He's a
would
good
look like for Vinny and Panarin? A one green tree and Carter George.
You'd have to add more to that.
then
I don't
you
know
need
if you want Angus. Like, what is Angus Booth? Like,
No,
you
but
need
I'm
money.
saying I
You
know
need money to go to-
SD.
yeah, Kuzmenko would have to be part of the deal.
Yeah, you'd have to get some money out of there.
No, because you just have New York take half his salary for 1 year.
It would be like first Kuzmenko, Laferriere, and
you would. We don't have to give away money though. We have 11 million cap space.
Well, you're bringing in 15.
No, you have New York take half his salary cap for 1 year.
For 1 year, yeah.
I don't know.
That's one of those. That's one you play the what's that game in the arcade, the fishing game where you throw it in the Fisherman's Quest.
Oh my God, what was that called?
Yeah, yes. Fisherman's Quest, and you catch a fish and then you don't even take the fish off. You just throw the rod back in and you try to catch a bigger fish with that fish. That's what we're doing. We're trying to. Okay, we got Vinny on the hook, and we're just like, oh, let's tag along Panarin with it.
Take a bite.
Yeah, that's what we'd be doing. Last but surely the least, especially in a lot of Kings fans' eyes, but it would also cost the least money-wise and asset-wise, is Evander Kane. Has been the demise of the Kings as far as the way he plays, the physicality, the rat-like mentality, getting under the skin of every single person in our fandom, has having a horrible season with Vancouver. Looking for a new change of scenery, so it would be the cheapest trade out of all these that we've been talking about. What does Evander Kane look like in LA?
I'm probably one of the few, if not the only person who, I think Joe is actually with me on this, but I would love to see Evander Kane in LA, to be honest with you. I mean, we all know the type of player he is. I'm talking specifically on the ice. We all know what he does in the playoffs. Kings need a player like that. I mean, I watch this team play, they have not a lot of passion, not a lot of grit, not a lot of tenacity. There's a reason Corey Perry is playing so well. It's because he brings a lot of that. And I feel like Evander Kane would bring a little bit of that and a little maybe extra to that as well. So, I mean, when we're talking about like ideal like trade targets, like this for me, it's not risky. You're not paying a ton of assets to get a player like Kane. There's no real like future kind of impact to this trade. It's kind of like an Andrei Kuzmenko type deal that they did last year, where you just get a player on the cheap and just see maybe he can improve on the margins. And I feel like Evander Kane would do that. And like I know a lot of people talk about like his off-ice stuff and he's going to impact the locker room. This locker room's like so great right now, like that's helping. Like is the locker room so solid that the team is playing so well that we can't just change that at all at the moment? Like I don't get it. So
I'm sure the locker room's fine.
Yeah, and
we got a lot of veterans in there.
This isn't like Evander Kane's not going to come in here and like I don't know. Like I could be wrong. Like he come in here and like punch Adrian Kempe in the face and they all go awry. But I don't know. Like, but yeah, I just don't see that being an issue where a player like Evander Kane who's going to do all that. Yeah, I'm not going to just turn the head to or cheek to his off-ice issues. Yeah, I get that. But you're talking about a GM who's said just in the past, he was the guy who brought him over from San Jose after all those on-ice issues. And I think publicly said that players deserve a second chance. I don't know. We haven't really heard much of Evander Kane's off-ice issues since then. And Corey Perry's on the team, and he's had more public off-ice issues too. So I just don't, not to compare the two, but it's just players have issues, and some get second chances and continue to play. So I'm cool with Evander Kane on the team. I think he brings a lot of what the Kings need, and it'd be on the cheap.
I'm with Russ on the cheap part. This is the type of guy, try to squeeze whatever juice you can out of a cheap acquisition. Right. So I get that part. And if that's the route they end up going, I can live with it. where I do disagree is I just don't know what problems he solves. Like the Kings can't score, he's not going to solve that. They've got Corey Perry that goes to the net. To me, isn't he kind of just like at this stage of his career? Isn't he basically Jeff Malott?
Maybe an upgraded version, but right now, if Jeff Malott is an everyday roster player,
right? I mean, but like is he that much better than Jeff Malott? I mean, maybe I'm underselling it a little bit. Where Kane, because like when Kane was in playoffs last year and he was healthy and he was going, like he was a difference maker. I felt like for the way Edmonton was trying to play, and because he could complement any line. So I get it. I mean, what's he got this year? Does he have 20 points?
Does it matter?
Is that more than Byfield?
Oh, Jesus.
I'll look it up real quick.
I'll look it up.
And so he is an upgrade.
He has 24 points.
Okay, so
he's 5 points less than Quentin Byfield. He's 4 points less.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean,
so he's playing first line with Kopitar and Kempe.
I mean, Corey Perry's there right now. 41-year-old Corey Perry. That's why I'm just like, yeah. What's the risk here
for a fourth round pick or less? Whatever you could get it for, I'd be okay with.
Yeah, it's even a third round
or
pick.
Middling prospect, Angus Booth or whoever. I really could
I can get with it because the price is what it is. You know, I can sign up for that. Again, I'm obviously I'd go in with expectations being pretty low, just because again I don't know if he solves anything, but I get it.
I mean, he's playing 17 minutes a night, and he's got 4 more points less than Byfield.
I can't believe he's that close to Quentin Byfield.
I mean, when we talked about Joe, when you were mentioning get Vincent Trocheck and then get like a winger, got a cheap option.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
That's who I'm thinking.
Right.
Trocheck kind of solves the center issues. He's your face-off guy. You got Kopitar to win the face-offs on the left side in the defensive zone. You got Trocheck to win the face-offs on the right side of the defensive zone. There, solves that issue. You get Evander Kane to maybe play fourth line minutes at most, or at third line minutes at most.
With the stats we just talked about, he's playing second line minutes or first line minutes.
He's playing on the top line right now for Vancouver, but I mean, and then you give him on the second power play unit. Those are little margin kind of upgrades where they're not going to cost you a Liam Greentree. It's not going to cost you even a Carter George or even a Henry Bushevich. It's going to be draft picks most likely, and maybe like a Sammy Hellenius for Trocheck. We're not impacting the future at all. So this team more than likely isn't going to win a playoff round, let alone a Stanley Cup. So I'm just saying hey, bring over something that's going to get me a little bit more excited to watch.
I know, Randon. I have a name that I want to throw out there, and there's no rumors with him. At this point, I think
Here, let me pass this over to you there.
Thank you. I don't think he's much of a secret anymore these days, or maybe as much. I mentioned him last year because he was going into his RFA year, and if Nashville does end up selling a little bit, the first phone call I make is about Luke Evangelista. And again, I don't think he's a guy that they're going to look to trade. He's one of their younger guys. I don't know that he's actually going to be somebody available, but I'm asking the question, and I'm willing to pay for that because that's somebody that's like a long-term asset that you can acquire. And he's a sneaky, under the radar, really good hockey player. And I think more of an LA Kings type player than say a Panarin, for example. Now, again, he's a 23, 24-year-old winger that I don't know that Nashville is itching to move off of that when they've got older guys that they can sell if they do decide to go that route. So I don't know, but just he's a name that I've always liked. He's right-handed, which again the Kings have struggled. But he's he's a guy I'm willing to pay for too, because of his age, and I think he's got a lot of runway, and I think he's almost like Russ, like from a progression standpoint, reminds me a bit of like LaFerriere, where he's never like been the high prospect, but like just quietly goes about his business, and like all of a sudden he's like, oh, like LaFerriere's having him, he scored 20 goals, or Evangelista's putting a pretty good season together this year. So again, not sure that he's somebody that's on the block, but I'd call about him.
I like it. I like the shout.
There's been a couple people that have talked about this guy, and I think there's been some little smoke with him being discouraged about the direction of the team, and that would be Zach Werenski. Zach Werenski in Columbus has said that, hey, we're supposed to be progressing. We're not in the playoffs right now. He is one of the top defensemen in the National Hockey League. Period. He's under contract for 2 more seasons at 9.5. So he's young and has a couple years of term. So it gives Kings a chance to re-up him if that's something that we're able to do. If they can't, then you definitely can get a haul for Werenski with a half year to go. I would easily pay a one Henry and Greentree for
name the price.
For a guy like that. So
what are we trading here?
But
I'll trade myself to Columbus. I will move to Columbus. So
man, you just had to move to Arizona, man.
I'll move again.
Oh,
Werenski in Queens, Jersey.
We talked about snow out this way, Russ.
We talked about a type of player that, like, Joel Edmondson is probably unmovable. You just signed Dumoulin. Like, is there a contract that kind of makes sense to move? And it's Mikey Anderson. Mm-hmm. Could you do Mikey Anderson a 1 and Greentree? Would that be enough, or would it be Anderson 1, Greentree, and Busnevich for Werenski?
Look at what Quinn Hughes got. That's that.
Yep.
Sorry, it's
Byfield's in that deal. Mm-hmm. Byfield's in that deal.
You're probably looking at Clark, to be honest with you.
Is in that deal. Yeah,
most likely. You're probably looking at first Clark and somebody else. I don't know. Maybe Byfield might be too much, but it starts with
what was it? What was it? It was first Rossi and Bouillon.
Yeah, Bouillon
and
first round pick.
Another
Ogren,
four assets,
and Ogren,
yeah, and Rossi. Yeah, 4 first-round picks.
So then you're probably looking at a 1 Clark,
Byfield,
Greentree, and
Byfield.
No, I don't know if you. Well, yeah, maybe
Byfield and Rossi, Clark and Bouillon.
I think
if you're looking to try to match the deal, like that's the best thing. It has to be. Now, again, it doesn't work for LA because now they have 0 centers, which maybe Hiller likes that because then he'll just play. Maybe
Yormi and Corey Perry at center.
Trevor Moore will go to center.
We'll go 90.
Yeah. So yeah, but okay. I want to segue that, Randon, because the Kings don't have a number 1 center, and from the looks of it, Byfield, at least so far, is a long way away from that. They don't have a number 1 D-man. I think Clark is certainly showing signs of being that guy. But when I say number 1 D-man, like you're mentioning Werenski, we saw Rasmus Dahlin tonight. There's a long way to go for Clark to get to those type of levels still, as great as he's playing this year. I was thinking about this earlier this week, and I don't know why it came into my head, but then I was like, oh, I thought about it, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is there, and I don't say this to be like I was just randomly thinking about it. How many teams in the league have a worse, say, 3-year outlook, 3 to 5 year outlook than the LA Kings? They don't have a number 1 center, and it doesn't look like they got one coming. Can Clark get to that level within the next couple of years? I think that's probably most likely. But their prospect pool is pretty bare. They can't miss on Greentree. Greentree can't miss. They're at the point where he can't miss. They need one of the goalies to hit, and that's at least a couple years away. Goalies are going to take a long time. Like, I'm sure there are teams, but when I think about this outlook for the Kings for the next few years, it's like, it's gross. Is it not?
This is probably the worst prospect pool in the NHL. You said Greentree can't miss. You're talking about a 26th overall draft pick.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they can't afford him to miss.
Last year they drafted 31st overall. The players taking in the highest drafts the previous 2 years before that, Jacob Dvorak and Jack Hughes.
They will miss.
Didn't hit on any of those. Like, you're looking at what? There's 7, 5, 4, so that's 16. Before this last draft, that's 16 players. I'm seeing maybe 2 NHLers, 3 maybe. I mean, this we can have a whole podcast talking about draft and development now. How it's just been a total shit show. You go from having the best prospect pool to having what we've just been talking about, probably the worst in the NHL because of maybe it's draft, maybe it's development. I say it's 50-50 because they draft safe players and they develop them into being the type of players that they want, how they play, and they don't turn out to be NHL players.
And that holds true for even the guys that they traded. There's been a lot of guys that they've traded, like, all the defensemen. Now, I like Dursey. Okay. Mm-hmm. Faber's turned into a good defenseman. But, they traded, Rasmus Kupari was a pretty good pick. Fagemo never panned out. Velarde was a good draft pick. And when healthy, he's been a productive player, but didn't pan out really as a centerman. So even it's I think the drafting and developing is a big question. I know. And like you said, we could do a whole podcast and probably a whole.
I can't hold this on anymore because we got a $5 hauler. Tinfoil hat's coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Emmanuel Augusta, $5 hauler saying, I listen to the Leafs podcast a lot. If they sell, how do we feel about Nylander? Byfield and what would get that deal done? What about Matthew Nyes? I think that they still retool around Matthews.
I like this question.
What do you guys? If Toronto sells? Or are there some players that I know you guys aren't Nylander fans or Nylander?
I am.
Oh no, Joe is. I'm not.
Joe's a big Nylander fan.
Joe is a big Nylander fan.
I think we're all a Matthew Nyes fan. What would that kind of deal look like for the Kings to get that done?
First of all, before we get into this, shout out to all the Leafs fans in my comments at the beginning of the year when I said they would miss the playoffs and the Sabres would make the playoffs. When I said that, and they all laughed at me, so I got that. Right, it looks like.
How's your poutine taste now?
Don't look at any of the other predictions. Those aren't looking good, but this one was my hot take of the season, and it's looking pretty solid. But I wouldn't do anything for Nylander. I wouldn't do anything for Nyes. I would check in on Byfield for Matthews and see what that looks like if I were LA and Toronto, because obviously Byfield, a Toronto guy. Matthews can hang out with his little boy toy Justin Bieber in LA. They can go frolicking around Hollywood. And I don't know. I would test those waters, to be honest with you.
I thank you, Emmanuel, for the $5 holler. And I really do like this question. This is a fun one because the Leafs do very much stink. And it's funny because I remember the predictions and you predicted them to not make it. And I predicted them to finish second or third in the division. And then I remember pausing and saying, I'm like, I don't even know if I believe that. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it anyways. And they stink. I'm here for Nylander. Talk about a game breaker, a guy that can create for himself, a guy that probably can be one of like think of Kevin Fiala, but on even another level. Like can just probably take Jim Hiller and just say, all right, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to go
He's
score.
anti-LA Kings.
Yeah, he is as anti-LA Kings as they get.
He's going to get fined every game. Like, he just got fined for flipping off the camera in the booth. Every time Hiller tells him to play defense, he's going to flip his own coach off and get fined $5,000. That's how.
But he's so good. So incredibly talented. And he had, if I recall, a pretty good playoff last year. But, like, that is...
He's definitely got a head of lettuce for LA.
He does. He does.
He's got the main. That's
and I really like Matthew Nice, too. I really like Matthew Nice. Now, the kicker is, and the question that Emmanuel put in is, like, Byfield plus what? You know, when talking about Nylander. The only problem here is the position, because the Kings, that's what makes the Byfield thing so difficult, is because they kind of really need him to be at least a 2C. Like, even if he doesn't develop into a legit 1C, they really need him to be a 2C. Like, he has to be. Now, the kind of underlying theme throughout a lot of this podcast has been the coaching, and you really do wonder how Byfield, what he looks like under a different coach. But again, I think a lot of that could be moot because of what the last two GMs have done to the defense. And that very much matters when it comes to getting pucks to your centers. And it's not a shock that, like, the Kings forwards all can't produce. Look behind them. So I'm with Russ totally. If Matthews ever becomes available, then Byfield is easily on the table. Would I deal Byfield in a Nylander trade? I mean, I want to say yes, Emmanuel. The problem is, again, just the position. They can't afford to lose Byfield from his position standpoint, because now, like, they already need to go find a number one center, or at least a number two center, and hope Byfield can take that next step, right? And if you trade him, you now need to go find outside the organization two centers. That's just tough. I think it's so hard to find a legit 1C. And if Byfield's not going to be that, it's going to be hard enough to find that as it is. So that's my only hesitation, Emmanuel, about the Byfield, is just the positions. But I think you're spot on when it comes to, like, if they're trading Nylander, or if they're going to trade Matthews, or if they were to trade Nyes, they're going to ask for Quentin Byfield.
Do you think you can get Jonathan Tavares for less?
Yes, but, like, he's got a no move, and didn't he just sign there? Like,
yeah,
at the stage of his career,
he's probably retiring there.
I kind of feel like, I don't know. Like, now, I guess we keep saying they're going to ask for Byfield. They're going to ask for Byfield. If we're sitting here saying the guy's plateauing right now, not to say we're giving up on him, like he can't ever become better, but, like, why would Toronto? Like, do you think these other teams, how do they view Quentin Byfield? Right? How does teams outside the organization, do they look at him and say, dear God, get him out of Los Angeles and get him away from Jim Hiller, get him to my hands so we can let him fly? Maybe that's how another organization looks at him. I'm not sure. But obviously,
if they're saying that about Byfield, then they're saying about that my boy Clark, man. Let's put some track in front of this boy.
Right. They're seeing what he can do in spite of it. But Byfield really he's spinning his wheels as far as when it comes to production. Like, I do think he's doing some good things on the ice, but in terms of actually production, that's not coming. So I just wonder if teams, how they view Quentin Byfield at this stage of his career. But
I mean, I think there'd be like a hometown kind of spin to that. I mean, Matthews only has 2 more years left on his deal. You're getting a player who's young, obviously has the physicality is the total wrong word to use when describing Quentin Byfield. The physique, like Quentin Byfield, is the word I should be using.
He has the mustache for LA.
Yeah, Matthews has the mustache for LA. So I think you can spin it as that. Like,
yeah.
So, like, to be honest with you, like, Byfield plus, if I'm a Maple Leafs fan, I kind of see where things are going right now. Gives you a little bit, maybe something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just the LA Kings homer here, but I'd love to know what Leafs fans are at least thinking about their team. Maybe I should be listening to paying attention to Steve Dangle more and see if he's still screaming into the camera.
Yeah, I mean they're a mess.
But they're a team that I wasn't even thinking of. But they have a lot of interesting players that could be assets for teams.
And I like all three. I mean, obviously, I like Matthews is a star, Nylander's a star, but Matthew Nyes is really good. I think that kid's a player. I think he just signed this offseason. Was it a $7 million?
Yeah, he's signed until 2031.
Yeah.
How does Brad Treliving still get work? Like, what has this guy done lately? Like, just ruined Calgary.
Yep.
Goes to Toronto, ruins Toronto.
Yep. Because that's still
what are these team thinking
Yeah.
when it comes to this?
It's there's still that, and hockey is not the only sport that has this. I mean, Mike McCarthy just got a job with the Steelers, so like, there's just, and it's hard because like, I have all the respect in the world for Brad Treliving and his career, and Ken Holland and his career, but like how there's some stuff that is so obvious that and that's not to say that I'm smarter than Ken Holland or Brad Treliving or anything like that, but there's certain things that, like, how do you not see where the game's going? How do you not see the way the game is evolving? You know, Rick Bowness
it's tough, Joe, because to piggyback off what you're about to say, and I think it's more apparent now in the NFL than in almost any other sport, is the young offensive-minded head coach.
Yeah.
Right? Like those types of guys, you're seeing 30-year-olds being interviewed because they're an offensive mastermind. You saw McVay really have only a couple years as an offensive coordinator. Shanahan, a couple years. Andy Reid is one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL. Like, you have a lot of these guys who are getting multiple stops because of being an offensive mastermind, trying to find a guy that can work with a young, talented quarterback. And we don't really see that in hockey yet. The young head coach that has affinity for the new way of hockey, the statistical forward thinking type guy. There hasn't been a wave yet of those types of head coaches in the NHL.
Right. I agree. And it's like, I look at, Rick Bowness just got hired by Columbus, and he had a quote talking about how he talked about how he wants Columbus to think about winning games 2-1. Like, that's the mind. Now, maybe he's talking about this in the context of like, they're a train wreck defensively, so I got to fix that. Although, as I sit here and I look at the goals against, they're not that bad. At least this is, they're not great, but compared to, it's not like they're last in the East even. But like, and then he goes on to say, he's like, defense gets you into the playoffs. And I'm like, man, what league are you watching? I don't get it. I mean, Anaheim is in the playoff spot right now. They're giving up goals left and right. Edmonton sure as heck hasn't made playoffs because of defense. Now, and I think people get a little confused, I think, when I talk about how LA's defensemen are so bad, but they always have some of the best defensive numbers in the NHL. The game has changed, and I just cannot understand how people haven't seen this or are not, like, defensemen don't just defend, right? Look at how active Bo Byram and Owen Power and Michael Kesselring and Rasmus Dahlin, that whole, even Samuelson, like that whole decor, look at how active those guys are. Watch Colorado. And Makar is on a different level, but he ain't the only one. Sam Malinsky, go watch Sam Malinsky. Mm-hmm. Watch these teams with these defensemen being active, skating. Like, the game is different. The game isn't lock it down, win 2-1. And for a guy like, and again, Rick Bowness seems like I'd love to sit down and just have a beer and talk hockey with Rick Bowness. Probably incredible, but like I just cannot believe that at this stage, and we're in 2026, and that's still a mindset for some people. And that doesn't mean every game needs to go be 6-5. Like you have to be able to defend. Like you have to be able to play defense. I get that, right? I understand that you need to play 200 feet if you're a centerman, especially. Like I understand all that, but like when you have the puck, it's as if the Kings are playing defense while they have the puck sometimes. And you don't see the fluidity that can be. And it's in part because that's they as a philosophy, they think that that's how you got to win is by defense and 2-1 and 3-2. And it's like, so yeah, it's hard, Russ, when you talk about Brad Treliving and these guys, these Ken Holland cut from the same mold. They want big sluggish defensemen and slow them down and knock them down, drag them out. It's like, guys, that is just not the league anymore. And how do you not see that?
It's funny to kind of go in line with your thought there. So Edmonton was down 3-0. They just scored 2 goals. They had a goal earlier. They just scored 2 more with 2 minutes left to tie it 3-3.
3-3.
Bouchard just tied it.
Because you can't stop those teams. You can't beat those teams 2-1, right? Like you can't do that. So now I will say, to Rick Bowness's credit, he's sort of right about like defense gets you into playoffs, because that's what I've said for the Kings for years. They're a team built for the regular season. Because on a one-off game, you might be able to beat Edmonton in, mid-January 2-1 and catch them on an off night. You ain't doing it 4 times in 7 in a playoff series. So maybe what Rick Bowness is trying to get at is like, if we can keep these games tight, we can find our way to a playoff spot. Like I can get that part of it. It sucks because I just think it sets everything backwards. I think it sets your organization backwards. I think it's a whole philosophical, it's just backwards thinking, but he's kind of right. Like when you look at what LA has done, we've talked about how high their floor is because they just don't give up goals, because they just lock things down and they don't try to score. They don't try to give up goals, or they try to not give up goals. So that elevates your floor a little bit, but it totally lowers your ceiling. And whereas a team like Edmonton, it just doesn't matter. They're never out of a game. They don't give a shit how many goals they give up. They'll just score 1 more than you. In Colorado, they're pretty well rounded, but they're cut from the same mold. Like they don't care if they give up a couple goals, they're going to score 5. And we've seen Edmonton now make runs deep into playoffs. That hasn't been a thing that's hurt them in playoffs. So it is astonishing to me that is still a mindset that can find work.
I think that's a way to go back to the topic that you were talking about before we got the gracious $5 donation in the future of this team and what is it outlook. And to be honest with you, I would disagree with you a little bit, Joe, because I think if this team wanted to retool, there's a lot of assets that have a couple years remaining. Kevin Fiala would be an asset. You probably could get a young top talent and a 1 for Kevin Fiala and move out some assets there. You could get something pushing,
now you're talking like years out though, no? Like
but a retool to Kevin Fiala is 30. So you can get a young talent and a 1. You can get something for like Mikey Anderson would do better on a team trying to compete as a 2 or 3C. You could easily get a young prospect for him. Okay. You're not moving Kempe because you just signed him. If Kopitar wanted to leave, which I don't think he does, but if he wanted to leave, you could get something for Kopitar on a cup contender. Darcy Kemper would probably get you a decent prospect or a 2nd or 3rd round pick for a guy that was in the Vezina type talks. I think you could get a lot for a couple of these guys that are in the middle grounds there, Joe, to retool, get younger really quick. I know you can't really do much to get rid of CC or Dumoulin, so it would be a multi-year retool. but I think you could make the adjustments there and get some young guys that could help this team. I mean, if you had 2 1s in 2027, you got a younger player, similar to how kind of Carolina dealt with the Rantanen. Like they got Stankoven plus a 1. Like if you could do something like that for a Kevin Fiala, move on from him. Kuzmenko is still a viable piece. I think you could probably get a 3 for Kuzmenko or a younger prospect. I think they could move some things around and retool pretty quickly. And I don't think that they're a top 10 future team, but a bottom 2 or 3, I don't think they're quite there either.
I think the reason I thought that is because, like, I'm operating under the assumption that that's not the direction they want to go. That they're not retooling.
You're
Right.
talking
No,
about
but-
Brandon.
Yeah, I know retool. Randon would retool, but like I don't think as in the current administration of Luke Robitaille and Ken Holland, I don't think they're.
So your question was posed as the Kings are trying to compete next year and beyond. The futures don't look bright. That's what
the outlook
question.
looks bleak.
Okay.
Oilers just
Now-
won it, by the way. Hyman just won it for the Oilers.
Of course they did.
It was 3-0.
Yeah, because the fact that the team doesn't have a number 1 center
Right. Or yeah, that's
or a number 2 center at this point.
That's what I was kind of getting at and they don't have a prospect that's going to fill that. And so let's say Clark is a 1D. Okay, let's say they don't have a 2.
He's not the 1D now.
Exactly. Was not the 1D now, and they don't have a 2.
Dowdy, right?
Well, I mean, if I'm talking future, like this is bleak.
Mm-hmm.
So now, especially if we talk about if Holland empties the clip into the market with the few bullets we have, Bruce-Savage, Greentree. Now
if he goes in that much and sells Buchnevich, Greentree in a 1, and this team we'd have to tear it down to the studs. And then you're talking about 20 years without winning.
Yeah, and then it might take another 20 years to get out of that, depending on who's running the ship. So that's what I got
another super chat, by the way.
Yeah, another super chat because we only got about 15 more minutes here. So let's get to Emmanuel.
All right.
One more. Cheers. I like Boone Jenner over Kane. How do you feel about Mercer, Pinto, a few other names that I've heard thrown around? So we'll start with Boone Jenner. How do you guys feel about that name being thrown around to the Kings?
Love the names that Emmanuel's thrown out here. Not so much Boone Jenner. I'm not a huge Jenner guy. I get it for the people that are, but I'm here for Mercer and I'm here for Pinto. Mm-hmm. You're speaking my language with those two guys, Emmanuel. That is for sure. I really like Dawson Mercer. I don't know what's going on in New Jersey. I don't know what's going on with. Ottawa, I think, is just not getting saves. Ottawa can't get a save for the life of them. I think there's too much talent on that team, and Pinto included. And boy, talk about a need there. Pinto's your 2C. Shoot, if Byfield can evolve and take that one step to be a 1C, there's your 2C right there in Pinto. I quite like him. I don't know though. These are interesting names, Mercer and Pinto, because I can see those maybe off-season deals because New Jersey may just need to shake some things up at some point here, and because I don't know what it's just not working. So I wonder if Mercer, to Emmanuel's question here, becomes somebody that's available in the offseason. I'm very interested in Dawson Mercer. And Pinto, he did just sign, I think it was a shorter deal.
No, he's signed until 2030.
Okay, so he's a part of their future, but obviously they've got some centers there. I'm in on both those guys. A little less so Boone Jenner, although I will agree with Emmanuel. I probably like Boone Jenner over Kane. I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably even go Charlie Coyle.
Yeah, good call.
I mean, they're both UFAs. Coyle's probably a better player, probably going to be more expensive. Here for Shane Pinto, for sure. Yeah. Dawson Mercer. Those would be like kind of what we've been talking about. It's like, what do the Kings have that would be able to get those type of players? It's not much.
I think Jersey wants like an NHL. I think they would want like a hockey trade.
You could probably do a LaFerriere for Mercer or something deal and kind of lean into the hometown kid from Hoboken in LaFerriere. and get a Mercer who's an actual. Well, no, he's not a center, but yeah, maybe that might be like a 1-for-1 trade. But I don't know if you're really upgrading much there. Mercer's probably a better player.
I think so. And yeah, and I don't know, maybe that's like a shake-up type of deal that Jersey's looking for. I don't know, because that's his name's been up before. His name has come up in the past, I think, too. Because they had so many pieces there and for whatever reason, it's just not working. So I like the names again, Emmanuel. You've thrown out some really, really good ones.
Yeah, we might as well get his question. He's got one more question. Since he did the 2 super chats, we can get to his last one. He says, I'd love a quick breakdown on Todd's system in Detroit versus what we had going here and still basically do.
That's a really good question, too. I have not I just haven't watched enough Detroit to have a really good say. What I will say this, I'm going to plug Jack Hahn. If you're not familiar with him, he is fantastic, former assistant coach for the Leafs. He comes out with a like a guidebook, if you will, hockey tactics, he calls it. Highly recommend it. And he breaks down every team's systems, 5-on-5, power play, neutral zone, offensive zone, defensive zone. You go down the list. So that's actually something, because McClellan, when was he brought in by Detroit? Was it last year, mid-year, or before the year? Because I'd like to see what that looks like this year. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for Hockey Tactics 2026, because I have a similar question, Emmanuel. Like, how is McClellan playing in Detroit, or coaching in Detroit versus how he was here in Los Angeles? Because I'm curious about the same thing. So good question. I will again. I would recommend anybody follow Jack Hahn, but I want to look at that too, because they're obviously having a really good season.
Yeah, I think I don't want to speak for Emmanuel here, but I think what he's alluding to is, why is Todd's system like being more successful there than maybe what is being here? And if that's it, I just think it's just better players.
And is he? I don't know if he's running a 1-3-1 in Detroit like he was with the Kings.
True.
Like, this is because he had some high scoring teams in San Jose back in the day. He coached Edmonton and McDavid for a bit.
Look what McClellan did in what was it, 2022, with Drew Doughty out all year, and it was really the PLD trade that just tanked him. That was it. It wasn't really his fault. It was just product of getting rid of.
But I still think long term, though, the whole, and now whether that was him or whether that was the organization, the whole 1-3-1 defensive structure thing was that just isn't a way to go long term. And like I said, I missed the game the other day, and I haven't watched enough of Detroit to have a confident answer to how he's doing that. But that's a really good question, because I think McClellan before LA was willing to play some offense. Not to say he's an offensive coach. Like, I don't think Detroit's scoring a ton. But that's a good question.
Well, there's no question where else you want to get your Kings hockey. That's at Hockey Royalty. All of our articles are coming out at hockeyroyalty.com. I want to appreciate all of our fans for checking in tonight. Please hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Tell your mom, your aunt, your coworkers, your baby daddy about where you listen to your Kings hockey at hockeyroyalty.com. You can follow all of us on Twitter or X, or I guess it's the same thing. All your rain coverage is for Kopitar 4 HOF. At this point, Russell will probably just make you pay for shipping if you want a shirt. So hit him up for the Let Kev Be Kev and the Kev More combos that have been trickling down there, $20 or $38. Hit him up on all your orders on X. Boys, it's been good to get back with you. I'm excited to watch some Olympic hockey. We'll probably have to do an Olympic special when that kicks off. Also excited to watch some girls. By the way, did you see that highlight of that college girl who flicked the puck up in the air?
Ridiculous.
Batted it down through the guy's legs, and then Kevin Fiala tried to do it in a game.
Ridiculous.
As well. Absolutely ridiculous play there. I'm excited for some girls hockey. And you know what? cheers to the millionaires that really put the money up for the PWHL. I've heard it's going off like gangbusters. Really a successful league going on there. So all the women who put their names on the line for that league, putting up a quality product and getting fans to go out and watch the game. I'm excited to watch them on the Olympic stage as well. Team USA all the way. Now, I got a couple more days and then just got to pop in the old Miracle, Miracle on Disney, baby. Get ready to go. So as always on this podcast, you know what to do. Go Kings, go.